3, 2, 1, action!
We are lived by powers we pretend to understand.
That's a line from W.H. Auden's poem, In Memory of Ernst Toller. I would suggest, as a corollary, that those powers often seem to understand us better than we understand ourselves, as if they come to us from a timeless dimension where the past, the present, and the future happen all at once. It's the artist's role to forge an alliance with those powers, even if it's also true, as Auden wrote in memory of W.B. Yeats, that
Poetry makes nothing happen.
Joyce Carol Oates tweeted a variation on that theme, saying,
Journalism makes nothing happen, as non-stop revelations of corruption and criminality among U.S. justices and politicians leads to little or no change.
So what are artists and honest journalists any good for, you might ask? What follows is my attempt at an answer. Hardcore materialists will deny that otherworldly powers exist, but anyone who has ever had a transcendent spiritual experience knows otherwise. Ernest Hilgard, a professor of psychology at Stanford University, famous for his research on hypnosis, said we all have access to an unemotional, ever-watchful intelligence, more powerful and cohesive than our ego self. He called it the hidden observer. Hilgard demonstrated that it protects us from doing anything under hypnosis that we would refuse to do under any circumstances while we're conscious, despite MKUltra efforts to override that function and turn bikini models into machine gun-wielding assassins. In his book, Evolution's End, Joseph Chilton Pearce went a step further with Hilgard's conclusions, writing,
It seems to me that we are one with this hidden observer until about age 7, at which point our intellect begins to form and a split takes place.
My intuition tells me that our exposure to violence, sexual perversions, and materialism is largely responsible for splitting us off from our hidden observers. With every savage beatdown, Sasquatch money shot, or ad for transvestite-endorsed luxury goods that we see on our black-mirrored screens, the hidden observer retreats further, while the self-conscious, ego-driven mind crawls to the fore. As we become more worldly, our spiritual awareness narrows. It's the artist's task to reconnect with the hidden observer, to identify with what some would call the higher self. But that task is not without its dangers. The ancient Greeks had their own terms for the hidden observer and the worldly ego self that hint at what might be at stake. They called those two independent forms of consciousness, the daemon and the eidolon. It should be noted here that daemons are not demons, although some of the more enthusiastic participants in the Spanish Inquisition were often known to conflate the two.
The power of Christ compels you!
A daemon is more like a spiritual mentor, an eternally patient guardian and guide from the other side, assigned to you, the eidolon, at birth, for your soul's development. Here's where it gets tricky. If you get too caught up in worldly desires, you won't always be able to tell if you're connecting with your daemon or something else. If artists can channel imagery and ideas from a hidden observer helping humanity from a beneficent, eternal dimension beyond space and time, linking our world to a world of greater enlightenment, those same artists might also be susceptible to channeling demonic forces from a lower realm, a world of retribution that promotes evil and revels in our resulting abjection. My hunch is that celebrity artists like Madonna, Stephen King, Jeff Koons, and Lady Gaga wouldn't even know the difference.
There's evil everywhere, and no one even cares.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Proving that we achieved our goal. Slowly, with your movies, your TV, and your media, we desensitized you, redirected your worldview to the point that you can't even recognize evil when it's right in front of your face.
Give us adequate images. Civilization is doomed or is gonna die out like dinosaurs if it does not develop an adequate language or adequate images. I see it as a very, very dramatic situation. For example, we have found out that there are serious problems facing our civilization, like energy problems, or environment problems, or nuclear power and all this. But generally it is not understood yet that problem of the same magnitude is that we do not have adequate images, and that's what I'm working on, a new grammar of images.
If you switch on television, it's just ridiculous and it's destructive. It kills us, and talk shows will kill us. They kill our language. So we have to declare holy war against what we see every single day on television.
The legendary Russian filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky said that art is born and takes hold whenever there is a timeless and insatiable longing for the spiritual. He went on to observe that the artist is always the servant and is perpetually trying to pay for the gift that has been given to him, as if by a miracle. Modern man, however, does not want to make any sacrifice, even though true affirmation of the self can only be expressed in sacrifice. We are gradually forgetting about this, and at the same time, inevitably, losing all sense of human calling. In Tarkovsky's work, the self-sacrifice of the artist enriches human spiritual existence and acts as a counterbalance to the dehumanizing degradation of modern civilization. Another Russian, the philosopher Alexander Dugin, has written that an abhorrent and mean liberal simulacrum has been thrust upon the world for the convenience of global capitalism as it evolves toward a metaverse-enabled technocratic totalitarianism. We're being pulled into the abyss of postmodern dissolution and virtuality. A desacralization of the world is taking place. A blatant purging of the slightest signs of the sacred from the entirety of human existence. Dugin describes it as a consistent genocide of the soul that will cause us, collectively, to suffer a loss of identity. Not only national or cultural identity, but even sexual, and soon enough, human identity. Perhaps the highest function of art is to help us reclaim our humanity and remind us of the sacred. But that doesn't mean that artists need to be sheltered from the profane. In fact, many of our best artists throughout history have exhibited a far greater familiarity than most with lewdness, depravity, and the sheer shit of existence. As Carl Jung wrote in Ion, researches into the phenomenology of the self. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. The artist experiences wide pendulum swings between the hidden observer and the worldly ego self, between daemon and eidolon, between a heart-guided mind seeking gnosis and, in the words of Plato, a beast untamed in the belly, subject to terrible and irresistible affections. Plato had propounded the theory that we arrive on Earth with two souls, one soul immortal and the other vulnerably mortal and prone to fuck-ups. Like the ethical skeptic said, one is either seeking knowledge or hungering for louche as a self-priority, and there is not much overlap between the two. Ahriman, the Asuras, and their sorceress minions meeting in black lodges throughout the world would, of course, fall at the far end of the knowledge to louche spectrum. They feed on human fear and suffering. Louche can be thought of as a sort of low-frequency emotional energy field that emanates from the mortal soul, or psyche, as it identifies with the false self and its attachments to the material world, as opposed to the immortal soul, or pneuma, which is always seeking union with the divine spirit, or higher self. Louche can be harvested from scared, wounded, or despairing people, especially children, which goes a long way toward explaining predator-class pedophilia. Those who hunger after louche are, in a metaphysical sense, soul eaters. Or, to quote from Schwabstack, predators in the ether that would devour and digest the psyche. Wars, genocide, false flag events, weaponized weather terrorism, all that and more is used by humanity's exploiters to ramp up louche production. Try to imagine the sort of intraspecies predator who would willingly affiliate with an organization, entity, or egregore that starts fires and incinerates innocent children just so it can thrill to chaos and acquire prime real estate on the cheap
the remains we're finding
for building smart cities.
is through a fire that
Such people exist.
melted metal.
They worship money and power, and they're blighting the lives of the rest of us. As Jean Baudrillard wrote, the opposite of knowledge is not ignorance, but deceit and fraud.
The tragic and deadly Hawaiian wildfires are claiming lives and fueling conspiracy theories around land grabs and even a Bill Gates laser starting it. But as with many conspiracy theories, is there some basis in truth? Or is it, as it is apparently seeming to be, already potentially Joe Biden's Katrina, a mishandled catastrophe where the government is shown to be out of touch with the people?
Okay, any comments on the virus? talk about the Hawaii response, Mr. President?
Yeah, it's probably not best to sort of smile and say no comment. If your tenure as president has been dogged by claims of senility, ineptitude, corruption, and being out of touch, probably best not to just grin and say no comment when confronted with a disaster of this magnitude. So let's look at this in more detail. Claims about the deadly wildfires in Hawaii, including that shadowy forces orchestrated the disaster with a laser beam, have gained traction online. Now, some people will say, oh, that's dangerous misinformation, that should be shut down. I think the opposite. Discuss it, look at it, investigate it. Either it's true or it's not true. We can decide for ourselves. Let's get excited.
Meanwhile, in space, Moscow and Beijing have turned a once peaceful arena into a warfighting domain. They have weaponized space through killer satellites, directed energy weapons, and more, in an effort to exploit our systems and chip away at our military advantage. In this rapidly changing security environment, we must adapt quickly and outpace our strategic competitors at every turn.
Lahaina Luna neighborhood, Maui, Hawaii. Citizens, impromptu reporter, wasn't planning on doing this, but this is what we're doing, and I'm thankful to have a Starlink from David Crawford, and we're here reporting on what I believe is potentially a smoking gun of sorts. We just don't know what it is, but I'm going to show you the scenario of this car and what's surrounding it and how temperatures could reach this level, creating this amount of melting of aluminum. So we're right below Lahaina Luna High School in the neighborhood that did not, I repeat, did not burn. You can see all these houses are standing around here, unburned. There's no burn here, okay? So to me, this is like something out of a space movie, because you have this small field with some grass that burned, right? You can see where the grass burned. But then you have these two vehicles sitting in here that have melted. So you have liquefied aluminum running down the side of a grass fire. You can point out some things that require a very high temperature. By the way, we just talked to the neighbor who was talking to an investigator in Lahaina town yesterday, and he said the investigator told him the temperatures reached in excess of 3,000 degrees. The glass is just melted.
Yeah, it was
dripping.
This is almost what you would see if you put a car in an incinerator.
But this is not surrounded by a bunch of structure fires or anything.
Yeah, there's no fuel.
So besides the gas that was in the tank, what's your theory on what could create temperatures of this level in the middle of a field?
Anomaly, I think is the word.
So this is...
Holy shit, this is a nightmare. I don't know where he's going, probably to block our street. They're gonna fucking barbecue all these people down in Lahaina. We're all trapped down in here. They're blocking off all exits, and everyone is just stuck, going in a circle in a fire pit.
This is where I mean, this whole thing is just... A private ambulance company calls the U.S. Coast Guard at about 5:45 p.m. asking for help because the fire is blocking road access. It is the Coast Guard's first notification of the fire at 5:45 p.m. when the first report of a fire came at 6:30 a.m. The Coast Guard was not made aware of this until they were made aware by a private ambulance company, not government officials.
About 12 hours later.
Then the Coast Guard notices, holy shit, there's a lot of people treading water in the ocean that look like they could use some help. I wonder why no officials let us know. They rescued nearly 40 people from the shore and pulled 17 people from the water. And the rescue efforts continue into the early morning hours. So this one guy who says that his kid can now rattle off, which is horrifying. His kid can now rattle off a bunch of friends that have died. And he points out we just needed like 10 minutes and we could have saved a lot of kids.
I met someone who I'm dying to have more time with, but this person's job for many years was to infiltrate what you call the global elites. What I would say to you, I no longer use that term for the most part, because this person taught me that they're not elite, they're a cult. That's what They are. They're a global cult. And why does that matter so much? Because it's accurate. It's about who they really are and what they really want, where they're taking us. They're not taking us to a world, of elites, right? They're taking us into the dark heart of a cult where, what do you have? You have people whose one single most important defining objective is to eliminate and eradicate God. I mean, he spent 2.5 years just studying everything from the rituals to the traditions to the ideology and so on and so on and so on in order to be able to successfully infiltrate them at the UN level, right? I can't tell you which faction he was part of. I don't want to give too much away. But because one of the things I asked him was, I said, I get it, but I don't get it. The children. You got to, I have such a problem with this. You got to explain this one to me. And he said, well, first of all, you're looking at it the wrong way. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, they don't define children the way you do. They don't define the world the way you do. The choices that you face are not their choices, right? They look at it completely differently. And I said, well, okay, so how do they look at it? And he said, for them, everything is defined by their one fundamental, all-consuming purpose. I said, which is what? He said, to defeat God, right? Because this is the moment. I mean, for them, it's about the real God. The true gods are them and Satan, right? And so he said, children are the closest thing on earth to God because we are created in the image of God. And as, from the moment we're created, we haven't had time to be corrupted and to stray. So for them, the younger you are, the closer you are to God, the more pain they can inflict on God. So the more you can make a baby or a small child suffer, the greater your victory over God. And that is the only consideration for them. Outside of that doesn't exist.
The world is a vampire. Billy Corgan came up with that line around the same time he was getting sucked off by Courtney Love. He should know. Courtney Love's own father accused her of murdering Kurt Cobain.
But it wasn't her music that first brought Courtney to widespread fame.
You met Jeffrey Epstein once.
Yep.
Talk to me about what that's like, coming face to face with somebody of that caliber.
Whatever that means. Well, one thing is that there is a physiological reaction that corresponds to this phrase that, the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. Like, that's a real physiological feeling. I don't know whether the hair actually does that, but it's exactly what it feels like. You're meeting somebody who is unholy.
Whitney Webb says the U.S. government is run by organized crime, and she sees both political parties as little better than dueling mob factions. She's amassed a huge body of evidence to support her claims. And yet we plod on, like zombie supplicants, thinking that if we just vote harder and believe in the fundamental goodness of our elected representatives, our political systems will change. Taxation without representation amounts to theft, but if you refuse to pay taxes, you'll be put in prison, unless you're rich.
Where do you want your tax dollars going? To support the infrastructure of states that are within the American experiment, like Hawaii? Or do you want your money being sent to Ukraine to perpetuate a war that doesn't seem to be going very well at all? The US government, through both Democratic and Republican administrations over the past 3 decades, has spent trillions of dollars on imperialist wars that have killed and displaced millions of people, and at the same time funneled similar amounts into the financial system to ensure that money making for billionaires on Wall Street continued without disruption. Oh, I wonder why there's so much mistrust, so much room for conspiracy, pontification on the actions of these elites, when this kind of policy is ordinary, accepted to us, when so much of what ought be crime and corruption remains legal because of the way these systems are organised. There's no wonder that people entertain outlandish conspiracy theories. One of the conspiracy theories is, of course, that these fires were started deliberately to benefit rich elites, like BlackRock. Now look at the Ukraine war. Ukraine have already done a deal with BlackRock to rebuild their nation using BlackRock investment. If you apply that mentality to this situation, if BlackRock end up benefiting from the fires in Hawaii, then the conspiracy theory is almost a redundant detail. Did they start it? Didn't they start it? Is it inevitable that the suffering of ordinary people leads to the benefit of rich elites and massive organisations like BlackRock and billionaires across the globe? And doesn't it all feel like a kind of macro conspiracy that's so diffuse, institutional, oddly abstracted and bureaucratically opaque that sometimes you just want to simplify it into, they started this fire, they started it with a laser from space. And whether it's true or not, it not only feels true, in terms of its results, it is kind of true. There is a conspiracy to keep you poor and to benefit rich elites. But it's everywhere. It's almost like water to a fish. It's not conspiracy, it's just the environment you live in. You live in corruption. Every time there's a disaster or fire, you bet it's going to benefit elites. You bet the poorest people are going to suffer more. Every time there's a pandemic, you bet they're going to control you more, and rich interests are going to benefit from it.
If you squint at the world in a certain way, it's easy to see that a cult of multinational vampires has always been running the show. Artists intuitively know this because of the choices most of them have to make. You can either suck up to rich patrons or starve. You either create work that pleases the predator class and promotes their agendas, and in so doing, morph into a minor league liberal class loyalist and blood-sucking fiend of your own. Or you retain your spiritual integrity. It's almost impossible to do both, although some of the best artists seem to have managed it. The so-called information age has only made that situation worse. Now, any aspiring ass-kisser can become an influencer. No artistic skills are required. You only have to promote vanity, greed, envy, lust, or anything else that might lead your viewers into what the pre-internet generations might have called sin, or worldly desires. There's an occult reason why one of the most highly paid social media influencers is an odious, toadying little shit who calls himself Mr. Beast. What you can't do is tell the truth, if that truth runs counter to predator class narratives. If you do, you'll soon find yourself demonetized, de-amplified, and visibility filtered into social media oblivion, where all dissent goes to be vaporized. Social media algorithms are written to ensure that only predator class pets get a voice. The hidden purpose of all those craven, venal, demon-riddled, selectively elevated voices is to corrode your mortal soul with deceptions and subliminal programming, thereby making you an easier target for loosh harvesting.
We now know, like post Elon Musk's $44 billion adventure at Twitter, that there are these coordinating groups coordinating social media with the intelligence community or with the Department of Homeland Security or with the State Department. We now know that we're living in an orchestrated, curated, choreographed world. And we can't know it officially, but we all know it if we want to know it.
Culture is a perversion. It fetishizes objects. creates consumer mania. It preaches endless forms of false happiness, endless forms of false understanding in the form of swirly religions and silly cults. It invites people to diminish themselves and dehumanize themselves by behaving like machines, meme processors of memes passed down from Madison Avenue and Hollywood and what have you. How do we fight back? It's a question worth answering. I think that by creating art, man was not put on this planet to toil in the mud. Or the God who put us on this planet to toil in the mud is no God I want to have any part of. It's some kind of Gnostic demon. It's some kind of cannibalistic demiurge that should be thoroughly renounced and rejected. By putting the art pedal to the metal, we really, I think, maximize our humanism, become much more necessary and incomprehensible to the machine.
Syrian activists said Islamic State militants have destroyed a 2,000-year-old arch in the ancient city of Palmyra.
Recreating the whole temple of Baal was too big of a project. But they did recreate what's called the Palmyra Arch, or the archway, the Baal archway. This is a huge dedication to Baal worship. And the way the thing was originally structured is that this archway represented literally a portal entering from one dimension to the next. Now, I know people say, well, that sounds like science fiction. Well, actually, if you study of quantum mechanics and all of that, I mean, we understand that there are multiple dimensions of reality. The Word of God speaks of that as well. But the Baal worship, Satan literally put it upon the hearts and minds of the worshipers to build this arch. So you had, before you could approach the temple, you had to go through there, and you were representing, I'm now sanctifying myself, I'm coming into the presence of Baal. Then in 2016, it was announced, New York Times headline article, other world publications, national publications, Washington Post, the Temple of Baal will be erected in Times Square. Well, that headline really infuriated a lot of people. There was an outcry. I mean, the whole evangelical Christian community said, what? And then even people in New York City, even if they weren't believers or, Bible-believing Christians, they were kind of freaked out by that. So there was such an outcry that they backed off and said, no, we'll do something else. We won't do that. So what happened was they changed the wording, because it really wasn't the Temple of Baal, but it was the archway that represented coming into the presence of Baal. So what they did, just a few months later, they opened with this production in London.
Ladies and gentlemen, the front floors of Palmyra. 3, 2, 1.
Their headline was, we want to take this on a world tour to show the world this relic that we've had to recreate to show you what, nasty ISIS did. And then their theme was, because this represents freedom. But here's where the thing gets creepy. They opened it. They aligned the opening and the unveiling of it to correspond with Beltane. And that literally translates to the fires of Baal. And it is an internationally recognized celebration of Baal. It's their holiday. And so in the fires of Baal, Beltane, that's what the celebration is called, that goes back to the fires of infant sacrifice in the Old Testament. Beltane, that's what it means. So they opened it in London, they kind of stilled the waters back in America, then they redid the headline, and they said, the Palmyra Arch. They didn't even put the word Baal in it. The Palmyra Arch, the historical artifact, will be on display in New York City. And everybody went, oh, that's cool. They bring it to New York City, home of the United Nations. Now, I'm emphasizing this because It's going to go a couple of other places too on this world tour. And every place, I'll go ahead and give it away, every place they take it is a globalist economic financial power center, which is what Baal worship is all about. Power and wealth and freedom. The next place they took it was to Dubai, and they coordinated it with the opening of the World Governance Summit.
Come together to reflect about the future, to see the new developments.
How did the World Governance Council open? With the unveiling of the Arch of Baal. It was all a part of the ceremony. Then, a few months later, it goes to Florence, Italy, at the opening of the G7 conference. Another globalist-minded institution. And they opened the G7 conference with the ceremony to the Arch. And so this was a hiding in plain sight. I said, Baal takes a victory tour, is what I wrote about and talked about. And he's just saying, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. And those four places kind of represent, you know, the power control structures of the world. And it was all done under the guise of, well, we're just presenting a historical artifact. Yeah, but why in those places? And why does there have to be a ceremony attached to the opening of globalist agenda things? Why did it have to be on Beltane, the celebrating of killing your children in a fire?
Mark Twain saying, I was dead for billions of years before I was born and never suffered the smallest inconvenience. Nothing of my ego shall survive.
The skeptics of all things spiritual will tell you that nothing like Baal worship, with its attendant child sacrifice rituals, could be taking place in the modern world. And trying to link the spirit of Baal to the globalists and the 70 or 80 million abortions that take place worldwide every year is nothing but crazed evangelical hysteria. Those who've dedicated themselves wholeheartedly to a life of material prosperity and competitive obedience to power, no matter how corrupt those powers might be, will never admit that bankers rule us. Our governments are run by criminals. Mass media is strategically controlled by the world's wealthiest parasites. Children are being targeted for organ harvesting and sex trafficking. And the World Economic Forum is a front for the agendas of scheming, multinational vampires. But deep down, they all know which side they've chosen. The immortal soul is freed in eternity, while the mortal soul finds itself stuck in time. The part of you that's eternal knows how to think for itself, but the part of you experiencing the triviality of everydayness is so often distracted by worldly pursuits that it tends to believe whatever it's told within its chosen reality tunnel. It doesn't matter if you pay more attention to NPR or Fox News. Both are shaping your worldview in ways that benefit the predator class. They know that humanity's collective unconscious can overwrite reality, that we dream the world into being, so they project what they want into as many minds as possible to get us to manifest it for them.
SpaceX CEO Elon Musk has recently confirmed a report that last year Musk blocked access to his Starlink satellite network in Crimea. Should there be repercussions for that?
Not at all, Jake. Elon Musk saved the world from a bigger war by refusing to accept Zelensky's demands.
Really? None of this concerns you?
Not at all, and I think you should be happy about it too, but you're not because you work for CNN, and CNN is a warmonger who profits more as the war escalates. So, f*** you, Jake.
The internet excels at stimulating anxiety, outrage, and masturbation, but it can't distinguish true facts from the relentless fire hosing of propagandist bullshit. Terence McKenna summed up our post-truth world when he said,
"Culture is not your friend."
Or as Michael Girard put it, in Guitar World of all places, humans worldwide willingly open up their minds en masse and allow the corrosive acid of digital information to pour in and transform them from the inside out. It's running through our veins, eating the nutrients in our blood, and mutating our DNA. I believe an alien entity or entities is hovering just beyond our possible view, on the other side of the air, plotting the overthrow and ultimately the destruction of our consciousness. I'm unsure if this is good or bad, but it has cosmic implications. It hasn't been good for their stock price, which was nearly slashed in half as the media feeding frenzy around brand ramped up. Wall Street seems to believe that free speech is bad for business. The so-called smart money is being plowed into companies that will profit from technocratic totalitarianism, that fascist World Economic Forum vision of the future, where the Internet of Bio-Nano Things will transform the world into a 5G control grid-enabled virtual prison. To get an inflation-beating return on your investments these days, you're often trading away more intangible treasures that are important to your soul. If repressive legacy media cabals like the Trusted News Initiative get their way, free speech will soon be criminalized.
As is often the case when a word like trusted is used as part of an acronym to describe an unelected body, trust is the last thing you should be offering. The Trusted News Initiative is a collaboration between big tech and legacy media organizations to target, control, choke and shut down independent media organizations. Because the actual real rivalry now is not between the BBC and CNN globally, it's actually between all trusted news providers and digital platforms.
When I look around, Jerry, just look around as if you're in danger. Try and look nice and scared, yeah, that's all, that's the money shot.
Speaking the truth online might become an arrestable offense, or at least a handy excuse for the state to seize all your assets. Imagine what that could do in the U.S. for the congressionally looted Social Security Fund. Recent retirees who've been paying Social Security taxes throughout their adult lives could have just one salty group chat about the CIA and suddenly find their retirement benefits suspended because they violated the U.S. government's new citizen responsibility and accountability protocols. Do that enough times to enough people and your debt ceiling problems go away. Freeing up money for another fake scamdemic or a lucrative new proxy war with Russia or China. Who cares about broken social contracts, stolen taxes, or old people dying in the streets when American billionaires are still in a race to see who will become the first trillionaire?
You play a good game, boy, but the game is finished. Now you die.
The human spirit doesn't want to be governed by murderers, psychopaths, and thieves. Society sickens as criminals come to power because spirit retreats, and an inversion of morality and common sense gets underway. Which means you can attain fame and fortune if you give that sickening society what it wants. But you might be punished if you try, sometimes, to give that society what it needs.
I mean, are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day, just playing with their plastic duck, and now they're just thinking, well, what can I do?
Okay, yes, we are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. And when I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. He just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old. He always travels with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different banal theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made, or to even see it as a prison." And then he went into his pocket and he took out a seed for a tree and he said, "This is a pine tree." He put it in my hand and he said, "Escape before it's too late." See, actually for 2 or 3 years now, Chiquita and I have had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. And we really should feel like Jews in Germany in the late 30s. Get out of here. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished. And that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, and that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing. And there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being, with feelings and thoughts. And that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet.
Sometimes, when you look back over your life, it can seem like your most important task is to figure out what the hell was really going on. Life poses a deep riddle, unique to each of us. To discover its meaning requires as much consciousness and knowledge of the world and yourself as you're capable of bringing to it. And if you should refuse to examine that deepest of all riddles, then you risk turning your life into a meaningless joke.
Are you okay? Do you want me to call 911?
I like this car.
Back when I lived in Seattle, I often heard stories about forklift drivers at Amazon and glorified data entry clerks at Microsoft becoming overnight millionaires from vested stock options. After I moved to New York, I heard similar stories about the early employees at Google, YouTube, and all the major social media companies. There's an underlying message to those stories that's at once encouraging and disheartening. You don't have to be especially bright or hardworking to get rich. You just need to be in the right place at the right time. Genius and pluck are often trumped by plain dumb luck. But it also helps to be an interspecies super predator. The irony, for me, is that since as far back as 1996, when I was part of a team that created the packaging for Microsoft's Office 97, I've been responsible for the final art on major ad campaigns for all the big tech companies I just mentioned. But I was never offered stock options. From my semi-insider's perspective, the creative class has been far more exploited than rewarded by big tech. Think about it. Jeff Bezos started Amazon by reselling used books and never paying a dime in royalties to the authors of those books. It might have been legal, but Bezos didn't become the world's richest man by always being ethical. Sean Parker shot to fame with Napster, which essentially stole music from the singers, songwriters, and musicians who'd created that music. Then he and Mark Zuckerberg made their fortunes with Facebook, now Meta, which profits from selling the data and violating the privacy rights of social media creators. Newer big winners in big tech, like TikTok and Spotify, swindle creators in similar ways, parasitically feeding off the inventive energy of humankind while, paradoxically, encouraging a malignant narcissism and multiple addictions to mind-deadening social validation feedback loops that shred the fabric of society. There were reasons to be hopeful about the internet during my first 16 years in New York. It had seemed like a way to bypass the mainstream media gatekeepers. Those 6 megacorporations that are said to control roughly 90% of all media in America. The promise of print-on-demand technology encouraged me to start a publishing company in 2007. I naively believed the authors I published at Three Graces Press could wing it on charm and a scrappy internet presence alone, without having to suck up to the pervy, corporate-sponsored kingmakers of culture, like Oprah Winfrey and Charlie Rose.
Get away from the notion of publish or perish.
By 2016, I knew how laughably I'd been proven wrong.
Oh fuck, where am I? The world in a nutshell. There's a bunch of metaphorical walking dead who figured out a way to siphon your creative energy and turn it into money for them. They're stealing your freedom and turning it into money for them. And you invite them to your conferences and you quote their books. They're stealing your freedom and they're turning you into robots. And yet, you keep hoping that they will somehow elevate you. They're training you to act like viruses. You can no longer enjoy anything without feeling the anxiety to immediately share, to be relevant, to exist. You share, and make a ton of advertising money for them. You know that you're doing that, right? You have nothing of your own. You have nothing. You give nothing to yourself. Your soul is theirs. It's all public. Your soul is data to them. dry and loveless. There's nothing sacred to them. They have figured out a way to turn your love into money for them. There's nothing sacred to them. But you know of course that you're sacred, right?
The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciating.
This is the
even
love.
Beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet.
Alert, another reality change approaching. Something is affecting the basic laws of nature, changing reality as we know it.
I watched the internet shift into Unreal Beast mode in the last months of 2023. In November, Sam Altman was briefly fired and then rehired as the CEO of OpenAI, allegedly due to his mishandling of a potentially dangerous breakthrough in the organization's secretive Project Q-Star. For the sake of synchromysticism, I'll note here that Q-Star is also the term for a gray hole, a hypothetical type of compact, heavy neutron star, a few notches down from a stellar black hole. A Q-Star has a gravitational pull strong enough that for some passing light, but not all light, it would be inescapable. In the first week of December, Google DeepMind launched Gemini Ultra, a large language model competitor to OpenAI's GPT-4. Elon Musk was quick to point out the synchromistic connection there, linking Gemini Ultra to the CIA's infamous MKUltra mind control program. Following up on Elon's tweet, the former U.S. National Security Advisor, General Michael Flynn, darkly suggested that we might be looking at MKUltra for life, bringing up thoughts of computer-facilitated fifth-generation warfare and social engineering among X's more perceptive commentators. Around that same time, Meta announced an AI alliance with IBM, Oracle, Intel, NASA, and more than 50 other organizations, including Harvard and Yale. On the same day as that announcement, New Mexico sued Meta and its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, for knowingly exposing children to sexual exploitation and psychological harm on Instagram, its marketplace for predators. Does that qualify as synchromysticism? Keep in mind that the world's first nuclear bomb was detonated at the Trinity site in New Mexico on July 16, 1945, and former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson was implicated in Jeffrey Epstein's sleazy affairs at Zorro Ranch, where Epstein had planned to make baby clones of himself on 10,000 acres in a New Mexico desert.
You were a beta incel, but it looks like you're one of those top 10% chads.
Despite his warnings about the dangers of AI, Elon Musk had announced in November of 2023 that XAI would be competing against OpenAI and Google DeepMind with a new large language model called Grok. That name comes from a neologism coined by Robert Heinlein for his classic science fiction novel, Stranger in a Strange Land. According to Heinlein, Grok could mean all at once, to drink, to understand, and to be one with. In other words, all that groks is God. It remains to be seen if the God of this new AI world is malicious or insane. If you think the fake news, social media censorship, and government-funded propaganda is bad now, just wait until those new large language models really kick in, along with other methods of AI image generating fuckery, like Midjourney and Adobe Firefly. It'll be like Edward Bernays permatripping on inhuman doses of meth, steroids, and LSD.
Some people will reach the peak of these mental effects right here, and they will stay there. From here on out, these people are insane.
No one will be sure if they're raw-dogging reality or getting screwed in a computer-generated honey trap.
We're just normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
If there's one thing that we should be teaching kids, it's how to fight addiction. It's how not to get addicted to stuff. Because that is where it's all headed, is like just these super, super addictive experiences and technologies. Whether it's an AI girlfriend or it's your AI best friend, it's going to be these synthetic relationships that are way more powerful than your brain is, that are taking the patterns that it's getting from billions of other users and turning that against you to addict you. And if we let that be what runs us, we're just gonna all turn into hopeless junkies.
I've never met anyone like you.
You look like a good show.
As James Howard Kunstler has been known to say at his blog, Clusterfuck Nation,
we've arrived at the place where anything goes and nothing matters.
He recently wrote that
nothing in the life of our nation is real. Every action taken is a swindle of one kind or another, a cavalcade of switcheroos aimed at zeroing out the consensus about reality. What trickles down from all this cosmic activity is a dwindling possibility of a fruitful life for most Americans. You cannot make a living. You can't fix all the machines in your life or get new ones. You can't get married because there's no way you can fulfill your end of the contract. You search in vain for something purposeful to do. You are eventually faced with the choice: surrender to depression and hopelessness, or revolt against a ruling blob that is only good at one thing: depriving you of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Kussler drove his point home a week later by quoting Dr. Toby Rogers on the historical precedent for America's downfall.
The similarities between the late 1980s USSR and present-day USA are uncanny. The endless lies, the corruption, the hollowing out of institutions, the censorship, and the decrepit leadership that is despised by the public.
The Russians had bumbling Boris Yeltsin to blame for auctioning off their country during the early 1990s in a rigged free market economy fire sale instigated by Jeffrey Epstein's pal, Larry Summers, and the capitalist vultures at J.P. Morgan Chase. What had once been state-controlled assets and power, managed ostensibly for the public good under a socialist system, went into the hands of post-Soviet mob bosses and their oligarchic equivalents to be exploited for profit. Outstanding. Now, senile and decrepit Joe Biden seems to be doing the same dirty deed to U.S. citizens.
So their real aims are domestic. They use foreign conflicts to make change in the United States, to make the country, in fact, less democratic. But they use those conflicts abroad to divide the United States. So we're going to do this, we're going to spend all this money, we're going to imperil America's national security, and if you don't like it, then you are a tool of fill in the blanks: Saddam, Putin, Hamas. It seems like a uniquely poisonous way of running a country, and not at all good for the country.
No, I think that's exactly right. If it would be bad enough if the United States were just going around spending all of Americans' money to fuel foreign wars. But what they're doing at the same time with these foreign wars are using them as a pretext to erode the core constitutional and civic rights of American citizens here at home. So when they wanted to launch the so-called war on terror, they ushered in the Patriot Act that gave vast powers to the FBI and the CIA of all kinds of detention and surveillance powers. They empowered the NSA to spy on Americans without the warrants required by the Constitution. So every single one of these wars results in fewer and fewer rights for Americans here at home. And now we're seeing the exact same thing, Tucker, with this insistence, and the Biden administration is fully on board in partnership with Republicans to provide billions and millions of dollars, not this time to Ukraine to fuel their war, but to Israel to fuel their war. And what we've been seeing from the people advocating that is this insistence that those who stand up and say, I'm not in support of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, I don't think the United States should treat this war as our war. You don't have to agree with that or not, but there's so many efforts now to say people saying this should be censored. What they're saying is illegal. They're invoking all the theories that the liberal left have been invoking for years now to justify censorship of the views they dislike. Oh, this is inciting violence, this is going too far, this is hate speech, this is against a vulnerable minority group. And now we're seeing the same kind of erosion of free speech here in the United States on the part of Americans, because now there's another foreign war that's always part of the equation, the domestic aspect to it, that vests more power in the government and takes away more and more rights from Americans.
If you've been paying attention to all the bought-off shipbirds and all the blackmailed perverts who've hollowed out our public institutions of justice, education, defense, medicine, finance, transportation, and housing, if you've been keeping a close eye on the thieving bastards associated with BlackRock, the Fed, and the Pentagon gamed-out vaccine mafia, then you already know that we live in a world run by the predator class for the predator class's sole benefit. The real looters of America aren't out in the streets breaking store windows. They're the obscenely rich upper 1%ers and their competitively obedient, self-regarding enablers. And they really have it in for the rest of us. Current world events don't make much sense until you factor in undiluted demonic evil and its insatiable need to control and energetically consume others. That spirit of domination will make this planet a hellish prison for most of humanity if we don't learn how to starve it of what it wants. What it wants is absolute power over everyone and everything. And it doesn't care how many lives it destroys to get there. We all need to get better at saying "fuck you, blooming" without having access to Elon Musk's "fuck you" money.
What I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil. Fuck them. Go fuck up, you son.
The billionaire nerd kings of surveillance capitalism, including Elon, have been using 5G data harvesting and GPS tracking to usher in a technocratic global government that's rapidly evolving toward totalitarianism, just because it can. To get there, they'll need us sick, weak, and stupid, and likely chipped with nanotech, if not also spayed or neutered. A healthy, independent, ethical, and intelligent population can't be ruled by criminals, but a herd of cowed, compromised conformists, jacked into a large language model MKUltra hive mind, will be easy to control. To that end, fluoride and phthalates contaminate the tap water you drink, making you dumb and less fertile. The glyphosate in your bread and wine is doing horrible things to your digestive tract. Every vaccine contains a cocktail of toxins that can compromise your immune system. Even baby food and chocolate bars are tainted with unsafe levels of heavy metals. The internet is also being flooded with the cognitive equivalent of toxins, but it's not coming from the places you might expect. The kooks, trolls, and basement-dwelling incels aren't responsible for most of the disinformation. It's coming from artificial intelligence itself, steered by big tech and the globalists. The dead internet theory is rapidly becoming reality. Bot traffic surpassed human traffic in 2016. If it hasn't happened already, soon AI will be gaslighting the entire world, crowding out organic human content with AI-generated content that uses algorithmic curation to manipulate public perception at a scale and speed that human intelligence can't even fully conceive.
I love you.
It's almost inevitable now that artificial neural networks will be thinking for themselves, and we should all be concerned about what they might want from us. Why can't we talk about chemtrails, endless war profiteering, and vaccine risks without being censored on YouTube or portrayed as crazy on Facebook? Does chemtrail blanketing help facilitate 5G frequency penetration? Do war-torn places, like Gaza, serve as test beds for new population control technologies? Can vaccines be used for sterilization purposes, or to inject self-assembling nanotechnology that will anchor the transhumanist agenda in our bodies and turn us into walking wireless computer nodes? If we decide to eat safer food, get more sunlight and exercise, remain skeptical of everything the government tells us, and ratchet down our exposure to corporate-controlled news, our lives are almost guaranteed to improve. But the people who advocate for those things are now being labeled as conspiracy theorists. Again, we should be asking ourselves why. What does the new AI God want? And what kind of worldview warfare will it be waging against us? I can't answer those questions, but I can tell you this. When critical thinking is outlawed, only those who live outside the law will be free thinkers.
Language implied that we were the ones endangering everyone, endangering children, endangering grandma. So it's a very demonic set of lies, Tucker, because people who, threw the first responders and firefighters and police officers under the bus, or the soldiers and the sailors, did so believing that we were the ones harming society and that they were being good.
You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Men fear thought as they fear nothing else on earth. More than ruin, more even than death. Thought is subversive and revolutionary, destructive and terrible. Thought is merciless to privilege, established institutions, and comfortable habits. Thought is anarchic and lawless, indifferent to authority, careless of the well-tried wisdom of the ages. Thought looks into the pit of hell and is not afraid. It sees man, a feeble speck, surrounded by unfathomable depths of silence. Yet it bears itself proudly, as unmoved as if it were lord of the universe. Thought is great and swift and free, the light of the world and the chief glory of man.
Is a school for humiliation of the false self, a place where we learn things about our own psyches that we never wanted to know, or at least that's the way it's worked for me. The callow, yearning part of myself that wanted to be handsome, rich, famous, and adored by beautiful women has had its aspirational ass kicked time after time. And now, finally, I'm mature enough to see that a lifetime of humblings, both great and small, might be preferable to living in a narcissistic narcosis or a fame junkie fugue state, entranced by my own constant ego gratification. We all fantasize about the lives we want to lead. Some get to live out their daydreams of success, spending a lifetime bullshitting themselves for fun and profit. Others live borderline nightmares, strewn with spirit-forging tasks and nuggets of unflattering self-knowledge, which might end in penury or an ignominious death on a beach in Thailand surrounded by soy dogs. Both can be equally valid karmic paths through the Keatsian veil of soul-making. Some rare souls might even intentionally choose the soy dogs over success. Materialistic triumphs rarely live up to expectations. Those with the most toys don't always win. Besides, we all know that money can't buy happiness. Although for a small sum, you can often get a happy ending at the local massage parlor. For 25 years now, I've been living a particular dream of New York. I moved to Manhattan not only to learn about glamour, but also to test my abilities in one of the most competitive, take-no-shit places on Earth. Many have done the same. We're all taught to desire certain things from life. New York can supply those things, but always at a price. It's a mecca for naked ambition. At some point, however, my ambition sputtered out. I can't say exactly when it happened or why. The game of life just started looking rigged to me. I knew I would always lose the competition to have what I'd been conditioned to want. The slender blonde wife, the big house in the suburbs, the gas-guzzling SUV. It was possible to achieve those goals if I worked hard enough, but I would never be allowed to rest once I'd attained them. At any time, they could be stripped away by car crashes and medical bills, by steeply rising property taxes, by an outgoing tide of divorces among family and friends that would suck my spouse into its undertow.
God help anyone who wants more.
In the words of George Carlin,
the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Maybe I was finally getting to know myself, while at the same time getting a clearer picture of how the world really works. I'd spent several years in Jungian analysis, learning how to identify my own weaknesses, wounds, ego hooks, and shadow projections. I was reconnecting with my hidden observer and discovering that many of my supposed needs and wants were not, in fact, actually mine. They'd been programmed into me by social engineering, operating as the spectacle, as Guy Debord used that term. It had all been accomplished with subtle, societal manipulations of that beast untamed in the belly, subject to terrible and irresistible affections, the false self. Suggestions, temptations, and manufactured perceptions often come from outside the false self, but they're treated as thoughts arising from within. Those bogus thought forms then trigger an emotional chain reaction that goads the false self into action. It's a kind of entrapment that leads to addictions, predatory behavior, and chasing after experiences that won't be good for us. If you believe in reincarnation, perhaps the reason our souls keep coming back to this satanically inverted world is that some are willing to pay for what others would pay to avoid.
You understand the gravity of your situation.
The push to dedicate most of our waking lives to working for corporate entities so we can accumulate assets that will eventually be stolen from us by other corporate entities could be looked upon as one overarching false self entrapment scheme.
never wanted to be married in the first place.
Yes, I did. There's a massive psychospiritual war going on right now to capture our attention and manipulate our perceptions so we can be jerked around like marionettes. Our strings are constantly being pulled by the daily news, by social media influencers, by corporate advertising, by paid-off politicians. But most people are barely aware of it. A shallow life can seem like an easy escape from harsh realities. Thinking about the world in depth requires courage, because the process of awakening first needs us to confront the darkness within ourselves. Only then will we begin to see the darkness of the world coming out of the shadows, where it's always lurked. That happens because we're acquiring more light by being ever more closely aligned with divine will. At a certain point, we see how little control we had over our prior lives. How mechanical our reactions had been to the world's malign string pullers. How our minds had been put into a prison. By then, we've come face to face with what Gurdjieff called the horror of the situation. We've already passed through the looking glass. We've gone beyond what we were being given permission to think. There's no going back to living a shallow life again. So yes, I once had a beautiful house and a beautiful wife, but the price my false self was paying for those gratifications eventually became too steep. A difficult divorce shifted my focus away from materialistic striving toward an inwardly focused life of near monastic seclusion. And what I discovered there was that if you can remain alone past the pangs of loneliness, your solitude will transform into communion with your hidden observer. I've now come to think of the world as a sort of enchanted mirror that shows us everything our egos desire, only to tell us in the end, you don't really want this. The only earthly gifts worth having, like true and lasting love, usually won't arrive until your false self gets out of the way.
Some will pay for what others pay to avoid. It's just a matter of time. Oh, how my memories press us together. Some will pay for what others pay to avoid. According to these memories, I'm just mad about you. I'm just mad about you. has come to this. I will deliver